Alright, so we're going to be shooting today the CZ75 P07 Duty. One of my favorite and most underrated handguns out there today. You know, if you haven't had a chance to shoot the CZ P07, you're really missing out, because these are a fantastic gun. Price-wise, they've come down a lot in price. Used to find these for over $500. I've seen them under $400 now. I don't think you can get a better handgun for the money out there today. Just fantastic single action, double action trigger. You know, I like hammer fired, so if you're a fan of hammer fired, you're going to like this gun. So we'll be taking a few shots. Got my buddy Nick with me today. Still a pretty green shooter, so I always like to get him out here and test out some of these guns. So we'll take a few shots, and then we'll do a tabletop afterwards. Alright, we're going to take a few long shots here with the CZ at about 12 yards and just show you that it still groups pretty well at a decent distance. So we'll take a few shots now. You're a little right. Alright, so continuing on with our review of the CZ P07 Duty. I've had this gun in my personal collection for a couple years. My original review didn't do it justice, so I wanted to kind of touch back on this thing. It's still one of my favorite guns I've ever owned. I've got a lot of range time with this particular handgun, and I got to tell you, I love it just as much today as I did a couple years ago. You know, when I started my shop, I wanted to kind of carry some brands that were not well known, at least locally for us, and CZ was the brand that I really wanted to build around. Unfortunately, you know, it just didn't catch on. It doesn't have the name recognition of a lot of other, you know, more popular firearms, Glock, Springfield, Smith & Wesson, Ruger, just to name a few. CZ, in my opinion, is the greatest value in handguns out there for the money. A few years ago, these retailed at probably $500. Now, I've seen them for $379 at places. In my opinion, you're not going to find a better bargain on a great duty-sized pistol out there. The P09, which was released a couple years ago, is the slightly larger version. I believe it's got a 4.5 or maybe 5-inch barrel. This one being just a shade under 4 inches. You know, but it still has that full-size duty pistol feel. A lot of people don't care for a few of the features on this, namely the lack of real estate on the slide. So we'll kind of hit some of the highlights of this gun. It does have and this is safety checked, and I'll show you here. People get so anal about that. But I'm going to point this right at the camera here, not at my head, but you can see here the slide rides inside the frame. This is contrary to a lot of different handgun designs out there. You know it's not making contact, or this isn't the rails that it's riding on. There is steel inside, which I'll show you later, but it's definitely a different type of design than what you're used to. So what a lot of people don't care for, because this is kind of a tapered slide, you don't have a lot of gripping space to the slide itself. There are a few serrations cut here on the back, but I've never had a problem, you know, putting this gun into action. You know, you can charge it pretty quickly, and it's just fine. So that complaint to me is, you know, minor. The other thing I like about this, I did a review, you know, a few months ago on a Walther P99, and I have caught so much heat over that because I wasn't in love with every feature of that gun. But I think CZ has it better in a lot of ways. It's a better trigger and it's a better decocking system than that Walther. So if you go back and watch my review, this is the standard for me on a lot of things. It comes with a decocker and or safety, you know, so you can choose. It's fully ambidextrous. So if I want to go into double action, the decocker is right where it should be and where you'd expect it to be. I can decock it easily and go back into a double action mode. On that P99, it was up here. It just wasn't natural to me and I didn't care for it. I feel like this is the way a decocker should be, and it just makes sense to me to have my thumb right there and just rock it back into double action. If you don't like it decocked and want to carry it cocked and locked in single action, just pop that thing out, replace it with the manual safety, which comes with the firearm, and you've got a manual safety there just like you would like. The trigger, which this happens to be CZ's Omega trigger, I think it's fantastic. The double action, and I'm going to pull the trigger here, again it's safety check, but the double action is a long, relatively hard pull, but it breaks really nice. It does have a long reset, as you can tell, but you're never going back into double action, so not as big of a deal. From single action, this is where it really shines. That's your bring up, and then it breaks really nice. And I really like the trigger on this gun. I think it's just an excellent trigger. It helps you to group it nicely, and I have no complaints. As far as the grip angle to me is just right. It's got a good amount of stippling here on the back and on the front of the grip and a little bit on the side. You know, and I like that. You know, you got a fair amount of traction there, so no complaints. I like the squared trigger guard. It does have a little bit of texturing here, so if you're somebody that likes to ride a thumb in that trigger guard, or maybe you know, however you want to shoot, you can do that with that squared off guard. I like that. You've got your accessory rail up front, which you'd expect. I like even the little bit of traction that's right here, because I tend to have my thumb setting right on that. I just like it, kind of maybe a feel or a cue where to put my thumbs every time. It's just good for muscle memory. Overall, the sights are adequate. You can see mine's kind of chewed up a little bit here, but it shoots well with these sights. It is adjustable, and I need to adjust mine for some elevation. It was shooting a little bit low for me, but you know, overall, I think it's great. Magazines generally ships with a pair, and they are 16 rounds, so kind of mid-range on firepower in the 9mm. I believe the 40 caliber is 12 rounds. So, you know, not quite the 19 rounds that the P09 has, but 16 rounds isn't too bad. Now I'm going to attempt to break this thing down on camera to show you the inner workings of one of these. Basically, to do this, there's a couple little lines here on the slide and on the frame you need to line up, which generally, you know, you hate to have your finger kind of in the way or your hand in the way, but I kind of have mine riding on top, and then just kind of rock that back, and then I'll take, you know, this is just a little screwdriver, and push that pin out, and then your slide stop comes out. You do not need to pull the trigger, and your slide just rides right off. You can see there's a lot of metal here on the slide itself. Captured spring, which, you know, I like. If you want to see what it looks like in the frame, you know, like I mentioned earlier, basically the meat of this gun, you know, you've got your metal pieces, if I can show it here on camera, you know, right here, and then obviously in the back. So it's not riding per se on all this plastic up front here. But that's the inside look of the frame there. To put it back together, just simply reverse your steps, and I'm gonna attempt to keep this on camera here. You know, again, it rides right down inside that frame. Pull it back to match those lines up, and then your slide stop release just like I said, not the easiest thing in the world. There we go. But it's not too bad. I mean, I did that on camera, kind of trying to keep it in focus. It's not bad. Again, overall, I think it's a fantastic gun. If you haven't checked out CZ, you owe it to yourself to do it. You know, if you're in the market for a duty-sized gun, you're not going to find the accessories out there that you would for those guns I mentioned earlier, but you are going to find a really good value in this CZ lineup. If you've messed with the 75 model, I think you'd really like the P07 Duty. So check it out. This is Keith from Trigger Happy. This is our final review on this gun after a couple years, and you know, A+. I don't think you're going to find much better out there for the money. So check it out, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.